Good afternoon, everyone. As the president of the Hamilton Law Association, I have the honored privilege of welcoming a special guest to our library today, the Honorable Minister Yasir Naqvi, Attorney General of Ontario and Government House Leader. I'd also like to welcome the distinguished guests and members of the Hamilton Judiciary, the Crown Attorney's Office, the Court Services Office, the Hamilton Law Association, the Criminal Lawyers Association, and of course, the Attorney General's Office, who are joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a brief introduction of Minister Naqvi, who was first elected to the Ontario Legislature in 2007 as the MPP for Ottawa Centre. He was re-elected in 2011 and 2014. He has previously served as Minister of Community, Safety and Correctional Services. Prior to that, he was Minister of Labour, a role in which he raised the minimum wage, brought forward new protections for vulnerable workers, and improved workplace safety measures. Minister Naqvi has also been the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Community, Safety and Correctional Services, the Minister of Revenue, and the Minister of Education. And prior to his election, Minister Naqvi practiced international trade law with Lang Michener LLP and Flavel Kubrick LLP. Minister Naqvi is recognized by his peers as a strong community leader and an involved resident of Ottawa Centre. He sat on the board of directors of the Centretown Community Health Centre and has been the co-chair of the Capital Food Bank Blitz since 2005, which has raised 275,000 pounds of food for those in need. Minister Naqvi arrived with his family in Canada in 1988 after the Pakistani government imprisoned his father for leading a pro-democracy march. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome the Honourable Minister Yasir Naqvi.
Well, thank you very much, Michael, for that very kind introduction. You read it just the way I wrote it for you, so I really appreciate that. It's always, thank you, and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for being here. It's always great for me to come to Hamilton. I had the great honor of attending McMaster University, so I hope the walls in Hamilton do not talk. I was young and innocent at that time when I came here first, and I'm really happy to be here at the Hamilton Courthouse and at the Hamilton Law Association Library. Thank you very much for hosting us in your very beautiful space here. And it is really hard to think of a more fitting place than a courthouse building to talk about the importance of jury duty and the vital civic duty provided by our jurors, our peers, our citizens. The right to an impartial trial by jury is a cornerstone of our judicial system. Serving on a jury is a fundamental civic responsibility that we all share. It's not only gives communities a central role in determining whether people charged with serious offenses are guilty or not guilty, it gives them a role in helping shape our legal system. People have the opportunity to have a direct say in matters that affect their own communities. It can also be a very rewarding experience for many Ontarians. But serving on a jury is not an easy job by any measure. In fact, it can be pretty tough. To start with, jurors must take time away from their jobs, their families, and their everyday lives to fulfill this important responsibility. And sometimes the evidence and the testimony they have to consider can be graphic and deal with very violent crimes. We know that for some jurors, the experiences that they have during a trial can have real, lasting, traumatic effects that disrupt their daily lives and personal health. And that is why it is important that jurors have access to support if they need help after a difficult trial or inquest. If they need to talk to someone, it should be as simple as picking up the phone to receive supports. In the past, getting counseling required a special order from a judge, but we have heard that we needed to do better. We needed to make sure that everyone who has served on a jury can get the support they need. And I want to thank the jurors who have came forward and shared their stories and raised awareness about this important issue like Mark Farrant, who is here today with us. Which brings us to why we are here today. I'm pleased to be here in Hamilton to officially launch Ontario's Juror Support Program. The program provides jurors with access to free, confidential, and professional counseling services if they want it. The program is available to all jurors, whether they served on a criminal or a civil trial or a coroner's inquest hearing. Participants could receive up to 8 one-hour counseling sessions free of charge. There will be no out-of-pocket expenses, and privacy will be protected for those jurors seeking counseling. All jurors need to do is call our support line 1-844-JUROR-ON or 1-844-587-6766. You can also go to ontario.ca/juror support to get more information about this program. When requesting counseling, jurors will need to provide the location of the court where their jury trial or inquest took place, the start and the end date of the trial or inquest, and the name of the case or inquest. The next step is for them to be matched with a qualified counselor in their area. Our program has been designed to ensure that jurors are able to get the support they need in the way that's most convenient for them. I want to be clear that the goal of this program is to help as many people as possible, regardless how much time has passed. I also want to be clear that this is just the beginning. We will assess the program over the coming months and make changes that need to be made in order to ensure the services are there for our jurors. I know that asking for help can be difficult. I hope that by making it easy as possible to access counseling services, jurors will feel comfortable reaching out. As I said earlier, jurors play an integral role in Ontario's justice system and in their communities. That is why it is so important that we give them the support they need as they fulfill this very important civic responsibility. They very much deserve the support for the work they do. I was exposed to this issue, as many Ontarians were, by listening to the remarkable story of Mark Farrant. Mark was served as a jury foreman in a criminal trial a few years ago in Toronto. Some of you may have heard Mark speak about it in the news media, the trauma he suffered based on the evidence and the nature of the trial that he was part of. I was at home one night watching the news, and I heard Mark speak. And it personally moved me. I was fairly new in my role as the Attorney General at that time. And I contacted my staff and asked them for more information about what kind of supports we provide to jurors. And from there on, we went on working on developing a program that we are announcing today. It's people like Mark Farrant, citizens in our community who have done their duty by coming forward and courageously speaking about the challenges they face, the mental health challenges that they develop as a result of performing an important civic duty, is why we are here today. And I'm very grateful to Mark for having the courage to speak out, to become a huge advocate, to ensure that there are supports for jurors, not only here in Ontario, but across the country. And I'm very grateful that he is here with us today, and I'm going to ask Mark to please come forward and say a few words. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I'm extremely grateful that this program is in place. I think it goes to show that we all recognize the important role that jurors play in our justice system. You know, if first responders and jurors are the bookends of the justice system, the law is the glue that binds it all together. Very fitting to say that in this room with all these law books behind us. I'm really proud of being a juror. It was a difficult case. I'm proud of the role that I served in delivering justice that day, but it did take a toll on me, and it took a toll on my family still to this day. And this program, again, will ensure that jurors moving forward have the supports in place so that they can return to their lives and have support where needed. So I'm extremely grateful that this program's in place, and I hope it's a springboard again to encourage provinces across the country to look at their own programs and review them, and for programs that aren't in place, put those programs in place so that no juror is looking over their provincial fence and wondering why they don't have supports in that province and the like. And I hope too that the federal justice minister will also acknowledge this issue and acknowledge the work that jurors do across the country and seek to work for some kind of arrangement across the country as well. So thank you very much.
So Mark and I are here to answer any questions that the media may have at this time. Yes?
Why Hamilton? Why did you choose this location to make the announcement? Did it have anything to do with the Bosma trial last year?
Well, so Hamilton has seen some difficult cases that go through. Bosma trial is a very good example. So we felt that it was appropriate to come to Hamilton to talk about this, to make sure that jurors who were involved in that trial in our community here in Hamilton knows about the program, and if they need access to it, are able to access this program. This program is up and running now. We've did a soft launch last Monday, so it's available, and as I said, there's a toll-free number that people can call, and if they need services, they will be given those supports.
What's your sense of how widespread this problem is?
That's a very good question, and I'm not personally aware of any data or statistics available. I feel confident, though, by having a program now that we will have that more information available to us now, because we will track this. But we do know one thing, that we are far more understanding and thoughtful and sophisticated about knowing mental health and talking about mental health challenges. When it comes to things like PTSD and other trauma related to incidents, we have a far better understanding, and it's important for government as the Ministry of the Attorney General taking this approach to ensure that those supports are available. It is also important to have champions like Mark Farrant, who could come out and speak about their own personal challenges. As I said, I learned of this issue because of Mark's bravery, because of his courage, because he came forward and shared something very personal, not with just me privately, but with the entire province, in fact, the country. That obviously compelled us to say there's a problem that we need to address, and if Mark is suffering, there may be many other jurors in our system that may be also suffering.
Been approached by other jurors once you made it public about the issue? Have you been approached by?
Oh yeah. I set up a. Well, I mean, I receive emails from jurors across the country. So I've been contacted by jurors in every single province, with the exception of one. And they all have different and unique stories about their experiences, and some of them are, as you can imagine, tragic, and some of them are struggling to this day in provinces that don't have a program in place and have felt that the system didn't respond to the civic challenge that they responded to.
Is there evidence that the counseling is helpful?
Well, it's helping me. I'm in counseling now. I remain in counseling. I don't think I would be well enough to stand in front of you now if I hadn't received it and still receive it. But again, I'm not the same person coming out of that trial that I was going into it. But I've made enormous gains in my own mental health.
8 sessions, is that sufficient, do you think?
Well, 8 sessions might be the right number for one person. It might not be right for others, but I think from what I understand, the system is going to be very flexible in addressing that.
By what means were you able to assess the counseling, being that the program wasn't in place when you first started?
What, in my sense of the program? Well,
How did you access counseling because it didn't exist?
oh, I had to go through, I went through quite a journey to try and find a counselor who was equipped to deal with PTSD. And again, I've been pretty open about it. The calls to the courthouse initially did not lead anywhere because my case and my own situation, it wasn't issued by a judge. So the system wasn't in place to look after me. So I had to find my own means through a lot of phone calls and a long period of time to try and find a clinician who could take me on.
Did the issue rear itself during the course of the trial or afterwards?
Yep, it reared itself during the trial. I mean, I was, like any juror, I think you're very attentive and you are listening to the facts and the evidence and you're paying great attention to what is going on in front of you. And so you don't have an avenue to deal and manage with some of that. So you're paying very close attention to this important matter in front of you. But yeah, I was feeling it during the trial, and certainly it accelerated afterwards.
Sorry, so you were saying that it took you a while to kind of jump through these hoops to get there. What was the light bulb that kind of went off to make you realize that this isn't normal and that maybe I should help somebody for the future? What was that moment like, basically?
I think there was I think I came across an article I knew going through this journey myself that something was wrong, and I started to ask around, and I had to do some self-reflection too, really. I just had to say, should I just really suck this up? Is this just me? Is this a character flaw? Should I just, deal with it? And I that's probably the worst thing that happened, right? Because I just delayed, and I just got sicker and sicker, and I got very ill. I made some calls, and I talked to some friends in the legal community as well, and I said, am I wrong? Does this seem wrong? Am I off base? And they all said no, but nobody had thought about it before, it seemed.
Yeah, nobody's spoken about it before.
Makes a difference.
Do you think there are other things that can be done beyond counseling that would help the situation?
Well, I think, you're dealing with a jury and you're dealing with, very delicate issues too. And you want jurors to go into any case that they oversee to be free-thinking and not to be necessarily bound by any preconceived notion. I think you want them to be very open and very ready to digest the facts and evidence that's put in front of them. So I think this is a great start, though.
Looking back, being thanked for your service and then leaving the courthouse and that's it, how do you think that this program will really help now? What's the difference from what you went through to what's now in place today?
Well, there's definitely some closure, I think, for jurors. I felt that after leaving the courthouse that day. I kept thinking, is this it? It didn't feel like there was a formal discharge. It just felt, really like that was it, and you went back into your life. And I had some questions, and I had some. I was feeling, obviously, the issues I was feeling at the time. So I think now there is something that will, there is some closure and some discourse now for jurors to, especially in really hard cases. We don't have to go through them, right? We know what they are and what they were. There are hard cases out there, and now jurors have that touch point.
If I may, one of the advice that I received from Mark when I spoke to him about this to develop a program is exactly this point, that where he felt that trials will end, especially difficult trials, and there would be that lack of closure or sort of coming back together as a group again and sort of the next step. So one of the change that we're implementing as a result of this program is that we have developed a brochure that jurors will be given after the trial is done, and sort of walk them through what the program is so that they understand that this support is available for them if they choose to use that, and just use that as a springboard or an opportunity to answer any questions that they may have. So this sort of would allow us to have that conversation with our jurors towards the end of the trial and make sure that they walk away with a concrete piece of paper with information around the toll-free number that I mentioned and the website address, so that it's not something they have to commit to memory. They have something, and if they need it down the road, they may be able to use it.
Is there a budget for this program?
Yes, there is. Of course, as the program will cost money. We're comfortable, so we will know the numbers better once we'll see the intake of it. But we're very comfortable that we should be able to absorb that cost from within our existing budget within the ministry. The supports will be there. The program is funded. It's up and running. We have retained a third-party provider to provide the service, Marno Chappelle. They provide a similar program in Alberta, so they have the expertise to do that. It also allows us to ensure confidentiality and privacy as well for the individuals contacting and receiving the support, as opposed to calling us, the ministry. The individuals, jurors, if they need support, will call the number directly, and they will be working with a counselor from that stage onwards.
Jurors generally aren't supposed to talk about their experiences as a juror. Do you think that's contributed to a lack of public understanding of this issue in the past?
It's a good question. I think I would say what I was saying earlier. I think we as a society have a far better understanding of trauma and the different form the trauma takes, and how tragic events could impact our mental health. You know, it wasn't that long ago that PTSD was very much part of our lexicon, and that we understood the impact of tragic events, being part of it or witness to it, could have to our own personal mental health. So I think that evolution helps us better, not only to understand the challenge, and then make sure that we've got solutions available for individuals who may suffer those type of challenges.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, for your support. Appreciate it.
Please.
Okay.